Hello everyone, my name is Kane, and I'm back. Yay, me. Anyways, so in this video I'm going to be touching on the health, action, and mind. Um, Quite simply, there's three stats in this game: health, action, and mind. Those are the three bars represented up here. When these hit 0, you get knocked out. Quite simple. When you get knocked out, you get back up after an incapacitation timer counts down. The incapacitation timer goes up with how many times you're knocked out within a certain amount of time. When you get knocked out 3 times, you die. You die, you go to a cooling facility, and I'll talk about death later. These 3 bars are affected by a few stats, and they're all in this nice little interface window here. So one of the first things I'm going to touch on is the stats that go with health, action, and mind. You got strength, which represents the obviously strength of your character, but what it actually does is it reduces the cost of abilities you use. Abilities in this game take a certain amount of each stat to use, and that's usually represented on the weapon you're using, and it'll tell you here special attack cost. This is added on to the base cost of the ability, which is predetermined, and you only know if you watch how much you lose up here. So strength will reduce how much it costs, just as focus and quickness will for action and mind. Those reduce the cost of ability for your each stat. The other one is constitution, stamina, and willpower. What these do is they increase the speed that you recover points. So if you lost 30 points in health, action, and mind, you would regain them at a certain speed. If you have a higher willpower than someone else, it'll recover faster. Pretty simple. The other thing to touch over is wounds. Wounds are something you occur through a few means. First mean of occurring wounds is being hit. When you're hit by a gun or melee weapon, you get hit for a percentage of wounds, and the percentage varies from gun to gun, melee, sword, whatever. It's from weapon to weapon. So when they shoot you, or hit you with a club, or gouge your eyes out with their bare hands, it does a percentage of wounds to each stat. So if they hit you in one of these pools, and I've gone over it before I think a little, when you're hit in the head, it damages your mind. When you're hit in the legs or lower body, it damages your action. When you're hit in the chest or arms, it damages your health. So if you get hit in the chest with a pistol, like the one I showed you, you would be hit for 4% of its damage for wounds. So you would incur 4% of, I think, 50 max damage in wounds each shot, if I remember correctly. And that's how it works. Now, when you have wounds, what the wounds do is it reduces the pool. So if you start with 900 health and you get hit and eventually accumulate 500 wounds in the health pool, you are down to 400 health. No matter how long you sit, you'll never regen more than 400 health. You'll only have 400 health to deal with until you get it removed. I'll explain how these are removed in a second. So the weapon does the percentage base damage, you get wounds, and the wounds are represented by black damage here. So the more wounds you have, the less red you have, and the more black you get. Now, to get rid of wounds, what you have to do is go to a medic or doctor for health, strength, constitution, action, quickness, and stamina. And for mind, focus, and willpower, there's only 2 places to go. Combat medic, which is an advanced version of medic, who deals in poisons and removing poisons and removing special damage. And entertainers. Entertainers are dancers and musicians in the cantina. When you watch them or listen to them play, it removes the damage or the wounds done to mind, focus, and willpower. Now, when you do abilities and heal with medkits, that's how you attain mind, focus, and willpower wounds other than combat. That's the other place you can get wounds from for those stats. The other stats, you can't get wounds. The other stat to think about is modifiers. That's just buffs. Buffs from doctors and entertainers. They can both give you buffs. Incumbrance, it represents the amount of armor that represents the amount of stats that the armor you're wearing is encumbering. So what that means is when you put on a piece of armor, it has an encumbrance stat, and the encumbrance stat is how much the pool is going to be reduced. So just like wounds, encumbrance reduces the amount of the stat you have. If you wear a piece of armor and it says it encumbers strength and constitution for 200 points each, not only is that a bad piece of armor, that means you are losing out on 200 of constitution, 200 in strength. It's reducing that stat. If I remember correctly, it doesn't reduce health, action, or mind. It only reduces the secondary stats. So it reduces it basically will increase the cost of abilities and reduce the speed at which you regenerate each stat. It kind of blows, to be honest. Good armor has low encumbrance, bad armor has high encumbrance. Some armor is made to be a trade-off. Some armorsmiths like to make high encumbrance items, but they have a lot of resistances. And I don't like it. Most people don't. It kind of screws you in combat in a lot of ways. It makes you kill yourself by using abilities because you don't have high strength, quickness, or focus. All your abilities cost a ridiculous amount. So I'm a novice medic, so my ability to heal costs a lot of points, but this would be representative of what would happen if you were wearing really high encumbrance armor that reduced your focus. You would hit an ability of any sort, and you would lose that, not that much at the max rank, but you would lose quite a bit of whatever stat that is affected by the ability you're using. So if you're a medic and use heal, it would be pretty much that much. Even though you're a master medic or master combat, it would take quite a bit. If you were a marksman, it would take a lot of mind and action. So armor is a toss-up. It's not free. It doesn't just reduce things for free. You gotta wear the armor. It's gonna have weight to it. It's gonna affect you. So that's encumbrance. The last set to look at is battle fatigue. Battle fatigue comes naturally through combat. It's a representation of battle stress. The constant stress of fighting and dealing with the adrenaline dump that's going on. And it's odd to see it in a game, but this game's kind of special in the fact they like to pay attention to details. Even though the game's not completely realistic, they like putting in realistic type things. And battle fatigue is one of them. It's not an accurate representation, but it's something that does happen in combat. It's been accounted for in war. It's been accounted for in martial arts. It doesn't matter where. There's battle stress. So what battle fatigue in the game does to you is the more of it you have, the less effective you are. Think of it like a scaling nerf bat to your character. When I say nerf bat, it is reducing your effectiveness in all ways. The more of it you have, the worse you're going to do. So if you have 5 battle fatigue, you're not really getting reduced at all. If you have 150 battle fatigue, you are probably going to be swinging and missing. You're going to be shooting at things, not hitting it. Even if you hit it, you're not going to be doing a lot of damage to it. And when you get hit with a lot of battle fatigue, if you have, say, 200 battle fatigue, and I think 250 is the cap, if you get hit with 200 battle fatigue by someone else, it's going to hurt more than it would have if you had 0. Actually, it probably would have missed if you had 0, but because you had 250, they hit you. So it is a bad thing. The way you get rid of battle fatigue is the same way you get rid of wounds from mind, focus, and willpower. You go see an entertainer. Only way to get rid of it. And I see the cleverness that the creators of this game try to do. They're like, how would we get rid of like stress that basically is emotional and not physical? Oh yeah, go watch someone dance. Go to a strip club, I think. Or, you know, listen to music. Clever, but, you know, a little silly. So I'm going to be doing combat next, and before I leave, the last thing I want to touch on is death and the effect it has on everything I've talked about in this video. And basically, everything I've talked about in this video, you occur from fighting and using abilities. The only other thing is when you die, you get a lot of each of every bad thing I've talked about. You get a lot of wounds and a lot of battle fatigue from dying. And also, your items are damaged. And what I mean by damaged is every item has a condition or durability counter. This one has 1,000. It's already down to 900 because I've died. So when you die, you lose 10% of your durability counter every time. And when it reaches 0, the weapon breaks. When the weapon breaks, it's gone. It's just a piece of junk in your inventory that you'll never get. You can't get it repaired. You have to either buy a new one from someone who made the item, or loot another one. Because that's the only two ways to get items in this game. You either loot it, or someone else makes it. The looted items can come with some good stats and some special effects. Crafted items are usually superior in most ways. They usually have higher damage, higher attack speed, and lower costs than anything you'll loot. So, dying's bad, okay? The best thing to do is avoid it. Especially because when you die and you lose 10% and you're gaining wounds, if you can't find a doctor or entertainer, which is kind of rare, but it does happen. Say you're on at 3 a.m. like I have been in the past. I don't like the fact that I have, but you know, it happens. 3 a.m., no one's on, you got wounds and battle fatigue, and you can't get rid of it, you're not going to be playing anymore that night. So, time to go to sleep. So, pretty much, that's it. In the next video, I'll be doing combat. I've touched up on, I think, everything I really need to before I jump into combat. I've talked about creatures and the way they affect you in other videos. All I really need to do is talk about stats in this one so you know what's happening in combat. Because I didn't want to jump into the combat and have people point to the 3 bars instead of the usual just health and mana. 3 bars and watching like any of them go down and I die. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next video.